hanging the Blue Hope drum and SABA plastic neutral ever since then. But on World Ocean Day last year is when we launched Blue Hope, and we had the benefit working with the British High Commission in Kuala Lumpur, Sir David Attenborough, who we'd worked with a few times from my days at Scuba Zoo, and many other leaders and NGOs. We ran about 60 webinars over 5 days. We had 500,000 viewers. And Sir David, we were lucky enough to get a special message from Sir David on that day, which kind of defines the problem. So what I'd like to do is just play that video, if we could play that video now. I don't know if that's Chloe or Jude, but let's start off with Sir David, who will say a lot better than I can. Thank you.
I think you have to stop share.
Okay, there we go, done.
Hello, my name is David Attenborough, and I'm a naturalist and a natural history filmmaker. Over the last 65 years, I've been very privileged to travel the world and see every environment from the ocean to the jungle. We're now facing a range of extremely challenging environmental problems. But one of the most pressing issues of our times is plastic pollution. While plastic now affects the entire planet, it's our oceans that bear the full brunt of plastic pollution. What's so tragic about plastic pollution is that it is so totally unnecessary. The plastic in our oceans should never have found its way there in the first place. And yet, a staggering 8 million tons of plastic now ends up in our oceans every year, causing untold harm to marine wildlife. Blue Planet 2's crew saw plastic everywhere they filmed, but this catastrophic damage to our oceans is reversible, and nature can recover if we give it a chance. While the actions of just one of us, you, may seem to be so very small with really no effect at all, in fact, knowing there are hundreds of thousands of people all doing the same thing is starting to have a truly positive effect. Every single one of us now needs to think, and I mean really think, about how we use plastic. So, I strongly urge you all to treat plastic with care, because if it reaches the environment, it will stay there for a very long time, if not forever, and ultimately affect us all. Every one of us should be extremely proud of their natural heritage and passionate to protect and conserve it and ensure that it remains around for future generations. We all have a responsibility to care for our planet. The future of humanity, and indeed all life on Earth, now depends on us. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Okay, back to you.
Thank you. Obviously, the support that we have from Sir David and some incredible other people around the world. Dr. Sylvia Earle, her Real Deepness, she joined us live from San Francisco, and ministers from different parts of the world. It was an amazing event, and really we've kept the momentum going ever since then. But obviously, it's been very hard to do anything because of COVID. So we've had various webinar events. We set up SABA Plastic Neutral in collaboration with VAL, the Norwegian waste to energy experts. We were honored to have YB Datu Nasidi Manjun from Local Government and Housing joined us, and we launched SABA Plastic Neutral in March. And then we had about 500,000 viewers for that event. And then we had a big event for World Children's Day. And then we, earlier this year, during Coral Triangle Day and World Ocean Day, 1 year on, we launched Coral Triangle Plastic Neutral, really linking Sabah with Timor-Leste as the two last bastions of biodiversity on the planet. Because the whole idea and the whole vision of plastic neutrality is basically creating value from plastic and equalizing the places that have the most amount of biodiversity, which we'll come to in a minute. So that's really what we've been doing. And now that we're starting to reopen, we can really get things going. So following Sabah Plastic Neutral launch, we then signed an MOU with Puan Mayor, Datu Noliza and DBKK, because obviously trying to tackle Sabah's plastic problems in one go is very hard. You have to identify a location. So we said, let's start in KK. So over the last 6 months, we've essentially been defining the problem and looking at the amount of plastic and working out how we can start dealing with the plastic problems here, starting off in KK. So we started off talking to all the various stakeholders in Sabah. We looked at the 3 most populated areas, obviously Kota Kinabalu, Sandakan and Tawau, and that drawing that diagram defines the amounts of plastic on the right and the total amount of waste per day, tons per day. So if we drill down to the plastic on the right hand side, Kota Kinabalu has approximately 75 tons of plastic created each day, which can be split into 2 different types of plastic. And what we were trying to do is essentially look at the recycling capacity or the potential of these 3 locations. And certainly from that initial study, we've made the assessment that certainly within Kota Kinabalu, there's a viable recycling economy that we can now create. So that's exciting. So having made that assessment, we now have to look at what technologies and how we go about doing this and what are the different technologies, what is going to be the best fit. So you have to come up with a bespoke fit according to the amounts of plastic, the types of plastic, and then what you can do with the plastic, what we call the offtake or the byproduct once you convert the plastic. So when you're looking at the different possibilities in the waste management hierarchy, you go from the very bottom, which is the worst, which is basically landfill, which is what's happening obviously here currently and across most of Malaysia. You have over 200 landfills, all practically brimming full, an environmental disaster unfolding, and we have to find a solution. So if you go up that food chain, that hierarchy, you've got different types. Incineration, which is still very bad for the environment, and you're basically not maximizing the value. And then you can get into a kind of recovery process, recycling, feedstock recycling, and or the best possible opportunity, which is recycling, either material or mechanical recycling. But so now that we've got a sense of value and how much plastic there is, we can then hone in on the opportunity. But the trouble is that the plastic volumes compare with locations in Peninsular Malaysia are a lot smaller. So so the options are fairly limited. We can obviously set up the collection, we can do the sorting, we can do washing and the shredding, but the maximize mechanical recycling that you can see in places like Selangor, it's going to be very hard to get going to set up those lines on a continuous basis. So really that limits us to only really a couple of technologies. So that defines, that slide shows the options or the technologies available to us here in Sabah, and we're now honing in on these different options. So all the boxes with red are basically not really options for us, and really the green ticks are really the options available to Sabah. A landfill, which is not really a solution, but that's the current situation where we're basically squirreling it away until we work out what to do with it. And then you have pyrolysis, which is a type of recycling, chemical recycling, recovery process. And then something called sintering, where we can take plastic and mix it with things like sand, and we can create new building materials like paving stones, blocks, and also furniture, a new type of MDF boards. So those are really the options we're looking at now, where we're kind of honing in on these options. Now, one of our partners is Val from Norway, one of the leaders in waste to energy technology. They supported us with the launch of Sabah Plastic Neutral, and we're now defining whether in fact that's going to be the best technology for Sabah. So what I'd like to do, just play that next video, please. Little 2-minute video explaining who WOW are and a bit of a promo for what they're doing. I'll stop my share and then you can press play. Thank you.
Endless volume of waste that pollute our environment. Global warming out of control. These are two of the biggest challenges that face the world, and the reason for WOW.
We are turning waste into CO2 neutral energy and raw materials that help industries decarbonize. We are finding ways to recycle carbon and remove carbon from the atmosphere. In short, we are fighting climate change and at the same time bringing end to waste.
WOW started its journey at sea, and together with cruise operators, we have developed solutions for cleaner oceans.
Long gone are the days when wastewater and garbage were discharged to sea. Together with cruise companies, we are building a sustainable future for this global industry.
With WOW solutions inside, cruise ships today are operating according to the highest discharge standards at sea. And we are now also standing firmly on land.
Our technology is increasingly attractive and relevant for land-based industries. We are delivering systems that replaces fossil fuel in energy production and fossil carbon in a wide range of industrial processes. We are working with leading energy companies, metallurgical industry, utilities, and others to reduce their carbon footprint and develop new business models within the circular economy.
So why are they turning to WOW for help?
Because we master technology and have a unique delivery model which allow us to deliver complex solutions on an industrial scale. We have done that for more than 20 years. We are doing it every day, but we have only just started. We are unstoppable.
WOW, decarbonizing industries.
Okay, so a real powerhouse partner there, and we're excited about opportunities there. We now need to decide whether in fact that's going to be the best fit for Sabah. But VOW stands for two things, stands for their solemn promise to solve the waste problems on the planet, but also valorization of waste. So it's got a double meaning there. Just go down to the next slide. Can you can see the slides? Am I back on? Yeah, okay. So technologies and funding are obviously all important, but in fact, the most important thing we need to get going is education and awareness. So working with DBKK and Sabah Education Department, what we can start doing now with the likes of Sir David Attenborough and other powerful voices, actually start creating awareness and try and create behavior change at home. So we're looking to start everything early next year once we can get back into the schools and everyone's not too constrained by SOPs, and start this movement early next year. So I will just go through our Water is Life and Rethinking Plastics program, where we're looking to start with schools, because everyone listens to the kids. They're not going to listen to myself or Monica or Jude or Chloe or anyone else. Everyone listens to their kids. So we feel that this is youth is absolutely key. When kids come home and say, "Mum and Dad, we've got to start keeping our plastic, not throwing it away," parents will listen. So we're starting with a project working with Ocean Generation, which is a UK NGO that started off as its life as Plastic Oceans. And they're one of the leaders. Joe Ruxton is an old friend from BBC days, and she's got an amazing program with working with Sir David Attenborough. So we have translated a 3-part series, amazing series, into Bahasa with Maya Karin, and we'll be launching this early next year and rolling out in across all 1,296 schools in Sabah. At the same time, we're going to be installing water filters. As we started talking to principals of the schools and saying, what would it take for you to go plastic neutral? And they said, well, we're trying to stop plastic bags, and we're trying to stop selling bags and banning bags. And I said, well, what about plastic bottles? They said, well, we can't do anything about that because we cannot provide clean drinking water. So shocking as it was, it turns out that all 1,296 schools currently, government schools, cannot provide clean drinking water. So we said, right, well, clearly we can't be playing our films and have the kids drinking water from plastic bottles as they're watching our films. So we've got to solve the water problem. So we've brought an amazing French partner called Fonte de Vivo on board, who have an amazing innovative filter, which is World Health approved, the top innovation and very simple filter, which we'll be donating to all the schools as we roll out this program. So we're going to bring real tangible benefits, solid change into the schools and then back into the homes. And we're also partnering with an amazing company, Malaysian company in Penang, who are making biodegradable plastic straws called Ada Biotech. And they're making straws out of rice and tapioca. So as well as delivering this education and awareness, we're looking to create really tangible change within schools and back into the homes. And this will start early next year. And it will end with a series called Plastic Detectives, where kids will go home and there'll be a week of collecting plastic and monitoring plastic. And so it'll be going from an education program into the homes where mums and dads, uncles and aunties and brothers and sisters will all learn. So we're looking to really try and create a change in awareness and behavior within Sabah relatively quickly through kids. There is the filter, and there are the bottles, because obviously we can't start delivering clean drinking water and then have kids coming up with their plastic bottles. So every single kid will be getting their own bottle. And so that'll be a centerpiece of the campaign that takes it from the schools into the homes. They're very durable, well-made stainless steel bottles with top plastic tips. So we'll be getting these produced, and every single school will be getting these bottles as we roll out Rethinking Plastics campaign. We're starting with a pilot, the first 6 schools out on Pulau Gaya, which is our pilot location with DBKK, and also Pulau Sepanga, Menonbok and Pitas. And we're going to start off with 4,000 students and teachers and 18 water filters. And this will start early next year. We're looking to launch during KK City Day or City Month with DBKK and Sabah Education Department. And we'll be making a series of films with Amy Dangin or Auntie Patrin. Some of you probably heard of her. And so she's going to be following us, and she'll be spreading the good news across all online channels, and very much Sabah leading the way across Malaysia and the wider region. So our timescales are, we've got 2 years to roll out Rethinking Plastics and Water to Life across the whole of Sabah. And we're starting with 6 schools, 30 schools. Phase 1 will be 100 schools. Phase 2, 450 schools. By the end of next year, every school, every kid will understand. We'll be rethinking how they use and dispose of plastics, but also hopefully we'll create this behavior change at home. So youth is the future, very much using youth. We're going to be making a big series online, a lot of social media, and this is very much Sabah leading the way, as I say, within Malaysia as the most biodiverse state across the whole of Malaysia. And so we're looking to kickstart everything early next year. We have some great partners and supporters, obviously with the local government and housing, DBKK, Sabah Education Department, the British High Commission, French Embassy, Forest Solutions, one of the most sustainable, well, the most sustainable forestry company, have amazing forestry practices. We'll be rolling this out through their schools, working with UMS, who are essentially giving us the academic support, and working with Daily Express to roll out the story to as many people as possible. Of course, this project ticks many sustainable development goals, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I hope I haven't gone over too long. Thank you very much, Sabah Society. That's the end of my presentation.
You're very welcome, Simon. Thank you so much. I just think it's terrific the way, you know, you're working with kids, and that you know, we have seen examples in other areas where children are educating parents, and I think it's just a really great way to go. So yeah, thanks very much for all of that.
There's actually just one, I forgot, we've got one more video. Maybe Chloe, if you could just play the last video, because this just so you can actually see the filter, because the filters is a very important part of it, and that's the third video which I meant to play. We could just play that, and then that's the end of it's just 1 minute.
I think you're right. I think you're right. It's
water
so
questions
terrific.
are really important.
Yep.
I am David Monnier, Fonto de Vivo's co-founder and president. It took us over 2 years of R&D to produce the Oreza, a durable family water purifier. The Oreza is meant to fit the needs of INGOs, local organizations and governments willing to provide access to safe drinking water in rural areas and during emergencies responses. Together with the technical support of some of the main French INGOs, we designed a long-lasting autonomous purifier. Long-lasting because made with top-quality French ultrafiltration membranes, but also because of a patented built-in backwash system. Our main goals are to enable users to be self-sufficient water-wise, to offer a nexus solution able to cover access to drinking water from emergency to development, and to improve the social impact of humanitarian operations. The Oreza is made in France, repairable and recyclable. It is made to last years without need of energy and spare parts in order to limit its environmental impact. We want to massively deploy the Oreza all over the world in order to support the UNDG objectives, aiming at providing a universal access to potable water before 2030.
¿Lo puedes tomar? Pruébalo a ver.
Great, thank you. So, I mean, the irony, of course, right now in Malaysia, we've seen so much, because of climate change, so much flooding and so many people who are not able, so much water around, but it's not drinkable. So in fact, the application for this water filter will not just be schools. We'll be able to roll this out across all communities and provide clean drinking water, which is what's actually being used all else in other parts of the world. So we're really excited about rolling this out early next year, making a real tangible difference, and also stopping schools and communities and families being completely reliant on plastic water bottles just to get water. So that's all for me. I think it's Boyd's up next. I've had my time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Simon. As I said earlier, I just think it's terrific. And I love the way that when you discovered, you know, let's take these water bottles into the schools, but hey, wait a minute. The schools themselves don't even have drinking water, clean drinking water. That then the next solution was found, which is these really terrific. I want one of these, you know, these low-tech pumps. I just love them. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we welcome Boyd. Boyd, we're really looking forward to hearing you. I presume you're going to say something about the Borneo Forum Declaration. How exciting to have it presented at COP26. I mean, wonderful. So we welcome you and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jude. As always, my mate Simon had some very good kind of introductory things, and we discussed many of these things, which are very, very good. Okay, good evening, everyone, and wherever you are, have a good evening in this case. I'm Sabahan, by the way, and but I'm based mainly in Johor, and I will talk about that in terms of Iskandar, Malaysia. If I can have my slides, please, Rachel, and then we can kick off. Hopefully, this doesn't take too long. This is my topic, climate action planning for Sabah. We reference to the Borneo Forum Declaration. By the way, Jude, I wasn't actually physically in Glasgow, only in spirit, because a very good friend of mine called Professor Ho from UTM and another good friend, Mr. Chow, helped us to present and launch the Borneo Forum. We wanted that to happen in Glasgow so that we are ready, in a sense, of Sabah being ready for the next stage of its life, if you like, from the point of view of a contributor to climate in a grander scale of how Sabah becomes one of the hopefully known countries in part of Malaysia to tackle and address climate change. So basically, this is my topic. I have about 14 slides that I will go through. If we can go to the next one, and I will mention that as we go along. Again, Jude has already mentioned this. I'm not going to go deeply into this. And also the background of Sabah society picture was about flooding. So essentially, these are the elements that we look at globally, not only Sabah, but globally. Rising temperatures, extreme heat, sea level rises, frequency of natural disasters. Even as we speak, I'm sure there's some sad occurrence somewhere else. And we, of course, in Sabah, we know in the situation at Sugud, which is really, really sad. And we are still, many of the people are still addressing that. So these are the issues we need to address from the point of view of climate. Now, it's important for Sabah to realize this. And being a Sabahan, I'm of course very, very passionate about how we should address these kind of issues because it makes a big difference to what happens in the future. Not in my lifetime, possibly, but it's happening anyway, but in my children's lifetime or their children and my grandchildren. So we have to bear that in mind of how we're going to make Sabah greater than it is now. Next slide, please. Now, again, I want to make sure that this is a scenario that is not kind of independent or peculiar to Sabah. It's actually part and parcel of Malaysia's commitment to the Paris Agreement, which was in 2016. It was signed. I was actually there in Paris 2015 when they talked about it. And the atmosphere then is a little different from the Glasgow or even different from the Madrid one where I was in 2019. Mainly because it is, I have to say, having been to COP for a good number of years from as far back as Doha in 2012, right up to Madrid. So it's a lot of things changing there, but nevertheless, the issue has always been, it's not enough. And as Chloe was saying, a lot more could be done, but of course there's a lot of politicians there and they tend to be just talking and very little else. So here is a situation where I would like to see reverse for Sabah in the sense we could lead Malaysia, and I will address this as we go along. But this is the scenario. Malaysia has made a pledge under its nationally determined contributions to the Paris Agreement, i.e. reduction of 45%. That is a tall order, but Malaysia seems to think it can do it. So I hope that as Sabahans and as the government of Sabah behind this, we could make a big difference to that. I'm not saying that I represent the Sabah government, of course, but I am speaking on behalf of Sabah itself. Next slide. Again, it's very much about Sabah climate action planning, which is the topic, my topic. But I want to look at it from the point of view of how I did this when I was working in Iskandar, Malaysia, in Johor. As you know, Iskandar, Malaysia is one of the 5 economic corridors created by the federal government. Sabah has its own, of course, and Sarawak. And Iskandar, Malaysia was the first and the fastest, and I was lucky enough to be part of that because when I came there, I was in charge of the environment. So how to address that and look at how it's going to transpire in terms of planning and environment and global change from a climate change point of view. This is what I came up with together with UTM and my partners who are Kyoto University, Okayama University, and the National Institute for Environmental Studies in Tsukuba in Japan. So it's very much a global thing. The Kyoto team is actually part of the advisors or the workers, if you like, of the Kyoto Protocol. So that's as far back as all that. So I want you to just look at this policy scoping that we did and I helped devise for Iskandar Malaysia. It's about Iskandar Malaysia's vision, but the important thing is about a strong and sustainable. And as you go down, we look at 9 particular sectors that are in terms of how we're going to address climate change in Iskandar Malaysia. Bear in mind that if we do the same thing for Sabah, it's doable because it's already been done somewhere else in another part of Malaysia. So as I see this, and of course now we started in Iskandar Malaysia in 2009, 2021, it's well over 10 years, 13 years in fact, and it's working really well. I wouldn't say it's totally working well, but it has addressed a lot of things. And by the way, it's the most advanced document ever produced in Malaysia and ASEAN. So I can claim that because I've done the research on that. So based on this work, as you can see there, green economy, green community, green environment, all of these are critical into how we're going to make Sabah a very, very important place, if you like, and a lead in terms of a state in Malaysia for climate actions. Next slide. Now, looking at it again from a point of view of the low carbon society blueprint for Iskandar Malaysia, this is how we devise it. On the left, we look at the chart there. We can see that if we don't do anything, business as usual, by 2025, which is the target for Iskandar Malaysia to be fully a strong and sustainable metropolis, it will go up by something like 175% emission increase without doing anything. We just carry on. So if we need to do something and interrupt that by having climate action planning and by addressing the issues relating to the 9 sectors I talked about, which are on the right-hand side of the screen, it's doable. And of course, it comes with policies. We call it 12 actions. And through that 12 actions, there are 281 programs. Yeah, 281 programs, for which today we have done 65 or nearly 67, and 202 are ongoing. So it's doable. It's if the government of the state of Sabah is committed to this, and it has to be that way, it has to be a commitment. Commitment relates also to having the money to do so. It can be done. So if you look at the colors, I wouldn't go too much into this, but essentially, green economy, if you address that, it's half the emission reductions that can be done. And if we do other things besides, and if everyone is committed to this, anything from what Simon was talking about is critical to make this work from the point of view of community engagement, schools in particular, which we also did in Iskandar Malaysia. I keep saying we because I worked there for at least 12 years, 13 years, in fact, and I just left that place. And then the other, of course, important thing is the government needs to put a lot of money, not all the money, but a lot of money. As you know, Singapore did that in terms of its climate emissions. 2, commitment. And 3, getting everybody on board. So if we do that, it's doable. I'm saying this because it's already been done in Iskandar Malaysia, in another part of Malaysia. By the way, it's also being done in Putrajaya and Kuala Lumpur. Next slide. Now, if you can see, these are the range of documents. If you can see, there's climate action plans by UTM, Low Carbon Asia Research Center, which we help establish as well at UTM. These are some of the documents. There's a lot more, of course, and something like 100 plus different research papers produced over a 5-year period of the project itself. The funding of that is by JICA, by the way, but later on it's funded by European Union. Now, I just go through very quickly on this. The first important document is called the Low Carbon Society Blueprint. That sets the blueprint, if you like, of what we're going to do for Iskandar Malaysia to reach a reduction of 58% carbon emissions. And then we produce other documents besides that. And later on our template, the low carbon society blueprint template for Iskandar Malaysia, is also used by Putrajaya, later on by Pengerang, as you can see there, and Kuala Lumpur on the bottom right-hand corner. At the same time, the way we did it for Iskandar Malaysia is I helped produce the in the middle ones, the low carbon society action plans for the 5 local authorities within Iskandar Malaysia. I hope that people are following this so far. So if we are doing a Sabah-wide, we do a blueprint, and then we do action plans for each of the cities if we can. Each of the main centers, Sandakan, Tawau, I'll talk about shortly, as well as Kudat and others. So these are the way you can actually reduce your carbon emissions. But as I said, there must be a commitment from the government and the money to go with it. Now the bottom line there, as you can see there, also prepared are the Hang Tua, Jaya, Muar, Penampang, and Tawau. This is after I left Iskandar Malaysia, I joined the Global Covenant of Mayors, which is an EU-funded, European Union-funded project for Asia. And 2 years back, or 3 years back now, we prepared 4 wonderful documents. And 2 of them I pushed quite a lot to get done, i.e. Penampang and Tawau. And I'm very, very proud of that because Penampang is my district. That's where I was born. And I wanted to do something about that because Penampang's big issue, of course, is relating to flooding. So I will try and come back to that shortly. Okay, next slide, please. Now, it's covered a little bit here, but as you can see there, there's a picture of Putrajaya there. For some reason, I managed to include that in some way. But Hang Tuah Jaya is in Malacca, Muar is in Johor, but I managed to get 2 cities in Sabah to be part of this GCOM project. Pilot cities, there are 5, but 4 were done. Penampang was one of them, and Tawau. These are the 2 that are being done. The other one that, by the way, GCOM is back in Malaysia again, and it will be back in Sabah because I've asked them to look at Kota Kinabalu. Now, Kota Kinabalu is actually, they've already prepared a green action plan by ICLE. So it means it can be adopted as a what's called a CCAP, Sustainable Energy Climate Action Plan for Sabah, so for KK, which means that it's well and ready to be implemented. These 2 have been done. They are really good documents, and the reason for why I want to use them as basis for my talk later on in this presentation. Next slide, please. And these are very important. As you can see here, GCOM stands for the Global Covenant of Mayors and Industry, Energy. If you look at Penampang and Tawau, the government target is 45% NDC emission reduction, and then the base year of 2010. But if you're going to look at now, it's not so much mitigation, i.e. you want to reduce emissions necessarily. You also want to do it from an adaptation point of view, climate adaptation. And this is some of the policies that we proposed, and we feel that they are not insurmountable. They can be done. That's why we put them in there. Reducing property damage, that can be done and worked our way towards that. But money has to come from the government and other entities to enable this to happen. For Penampang, as you can see there, goal number 2, it's not going to be easy to stop tropical storms. So we have ways to reduce that. Number 3 is to try and regulate hill cutting to reduce anything from deforestation, for example, because that leads to a lot more flooding. Tawau is the same. Again, it faces a lot of flooding and a lot of other issues relating to climate. So we have to address this and address them very carefully because these are not just things that we pluck out of the blue. These are research done with a big input from each of those authorities to get things done, and this is how we was prepared. Now, we tune this together with how we're going to do this from the point of view of making it policy and mainstreaming it. That is the important thing that we need to do. Next slide. So it's from this point of view, I propose 3 main things, which is not new, but have proposed this at European level, at local level, at Malaysia level. The mainstreaming is important. We need to put these climate action plans into the main structure plans of the state. Structure plan being the Sabah structure plan, which I believe needs to review now because it's getting a bit older. This is the structure plan 2033. Number 2 are the local plans of each of the 26 authorities in Sabah. We need to get to that level, and I was mentioning earlier, it's about low carbon society action plans for the 5 authorities in Iskandar. We do the same thing here, and you get to a point where it can be done and doable, and it's embedded in the planning system of the state of Sabah. That's how it should be happen. So a structure plan down to, you need to control it in terms of what type of development can occur in certain places. If we do it now, build over the place everywhere, you're going to have the issue of flooding all over again, especially when we increase the level of land in each situation. Number 3 is important. You have to enforce against whatever it is, and then you go through the whole cycle. You then have to assess it and start all over again, but getting it better every time. And you track your carbon emissions as you go, and you put in your adaptation policies as you go and develop over time. And ensure that awareness, like Simon was talking about, and I'm sure that Ken will talk about shortly, all of these are critical on making sure that we have a climate action plans that's working and not just on the shelf. Next slide. Now, I've got 3 more slides, and this is the basis of why I feel that Sabah should have its own climate action plans. And in this case, the CCAP, Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan for Sabah, because this is another document that is very similar to what has been done for Penampang and Tawau, Muar, and also Hang Tuah Jaya, and lately, of course, Kuala Lumpur and other places of the world. There are at least 11,000 plus CCAPs prepared, as I understand it, globally, and we are part of that. And that's a good sign, but it means that we have to do our work properly. In terms of Sabah, it's also mentioned by Sir David and by Simon, is how vast our natural resources are, our assets in terms of biodiversity. So our focus, in my point of view, of how we prepare this plan is looking at biodiversity in relation to climate and in relation to people and the environment itself, because Sabah is vast and we can do a lot of things, good things, by the way, of how to make sure that we own and protect and leave Sabah from a natural point of view intact for generations to come. So as you can see there, biodiversity areas, 59%. It's still a huge area. But of course, when you do your homework in terms of going to the site, it might be different. And I have to say, I haven't gone everywhere in Sabah, but I know that we have potential areas that are under threat or already under threat in any case, especially animals and the environment itself and the people who live in them. Next one. So in terms of the need for Sabah to have a blueprint, either a blueprint, low carbon society blueprint 2030, or to make Sabah carbon neutral by 2050, which is the requirement from COP in Glasgow, is for all countries to commit to this and a reduction. My proposal would be prepare a CCAP for Sabah, not just certain cities, but for Sabah itself. By doing that, you address several things. I list out 5 here. It can be, of course, put Sabah in the global map, not only in Malaysia, but globally as one of the most advanced states in Malaysia when it regards to addressing climate warming as well as tackling climate change. Number 2, you have a comprehensive set of policies. The ones that I did for Iskandar Malaysia, as well as the ones that we did for Penampang Tawau, are also in that way. They address what is happening now and address it properly. I think we can no longer, I'm a town planner, by the way, and as a town planner, in the olden days, we used to look at this from an ivory tower, more or less, where, okay, population is needed for this population for the next 20 years. We build so many houses, we build so many shops, so many cars, that kind of thing. We can no longer do that because we are not addressing the very real issues of climate change, global warming, as I talked about in the beginning, and Jude mentioned about it at the beginning as well. We have to address those here and now, because it's no longer a climate change or crisis. It's actually an emergency and a crisis. So we have to address that very, very carefully. Number 3 is about mainstreaming, which is guiding and helping local authorities, technical departments, the state. We're also giving a signal, by the way, to the Malaysian government that we mean business. We, Sabahans, mean business when it regards to carbon neutral and contributing to the nation's carbon neutral proposals. So we do that, and I think we are way in line with whatever we need to do as well. Finally, we can become one of the most sustainable and strong and vibrant states if we do this right. And we have to work together, in my view. It cannot be said by one person, but all of us need to do that. We know that there's a conference on Sabah, climate conference, on the 14, 15 of this month. These are things that need to be addressed by the new appointed Sabah climate advisor, my good friend Daryl Weber. So all of these things are important. We have to bear in mind how we're going to do this. We have to work together, as Sabahans usually do. And we should all be proud of that fact. Next slide. So a couple more. Again, as I said, I've been all over this COP things. And as you can see there, third from the left is my good friend Prof. Ho. The fourth one is the mayor of DBKL now. The fifth one is a very prominent high official from Putrajaya. And of course, Mr. Chow on the left hand, far left. And our good friend, Dr. Junichi, who represented the Japan government. And that document there, of course, when we launched at Katowice, the KL Low Carbon Society Blueprint, and myself at that point. So very, very important platform. Not necessarily can solve a lot, but it's a good platform to address certain things and launch certain things. Next slide, please. So this is it, a good place to launch something. So it's Mr. Kanyao Chong said it's a historic Borneo Declaration. It is, because it's the first time ever that Sabah, representing Borneo in this case, has launched something big called the Borneo Forum Declaration of the Environment. This document, by the way, is voluntary, and we have 34 signatures when we went to launch, but a lot more have now come on board, and we're very excited of that. I think we should be borne in mind that this document can play a big role on how Sabah and Malaysia, as well as Borneo, can make a difference globally in terms of addressing climate change. So next one. So finally, if we are ready, and I hope that our Chief Minister and other ministers are listening or can get the message, let's be ready for Cairo next year in November. But we have to be ready with this document that I'm proposing, and I hope that this can be realized when we go to Cairo. Hopefully, of course, by then, COVID is gone, and then we can address that properly. So this is something to look forward to. We can call it the road to Cairo and make some big contribution for Sabah. Thank you, Jude.
Well, thank you, Boyd. It is so amazing that you are contributing so many. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Chloe.
Kolonya. Sorry, I think the live stream is muted. So let me switch on my mic, and yes, I'll continue. Thank you so much, Boyd, and it is so amazing that you are contributing so many, and we are as excited as you to put Sabah in the environmental global map. And I really hope to see improvements on our environment.
Thank
and
you.
to many things, and I still think the live stream is not hearing me yet, so please bear with me. All right. And you know, too many things or places, community areas are under development, and it's not that I don't agree, you know, and but we have to practice development sustainably. And yes, I totally agree with you that Sabah needs to have a sustainable energy and climate action plan, the CCAP. Yeah, totally agree with you. Because yeah, as what you said, we have all the assets in Sabah, we have all the resources, biodiversity, and Sabah is vast, and we can do good things and to contribute back to the environment. Yes, thank you so much, Boyd. And the
Welcome.
next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Boyd. And the next speaker, I will invite Ken Kundaya to share a few words.
Muted. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to say a few words. Just to preface, I'm actually on the premise that I'm going to introduce Borneo Forum and then let Simon and Boyd do the brand presentation. But it looks like I've been looking at the 15 minutes. I'm going to talk about quickly introducing Borneo Forum and then also focus on the role of law, actually. That's slightly different from the original title, the role of law in climate change and environmental protection. So let me share my slides. Okay. 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 Oh, okay. Can you see this slide? You can? Yeah.
Yes,
Excellent.
we can.
Good. All right. Okay. Introduction to Borneo Forum, and I'm Ken, and it's a brief commentary on the role of law and climate change. I slightly adjusted that because of the interest that's going on about this. I was going to cover more on the role of business, but then the role of law seems to be the most interesting one when all the interest in that due to the current hot topics in the state especially, which I'll touch a little bit later. Now, so Borneo Forum, by the way, as just introduction myself, I'm from Sabah. I'm from Papar, Sabah. I got a scholarship to study in the UK. I actually came to the UK to study education, but cleverly or craftily also did a double major, end up with triple major in education, law, and history to allow me to do a law degree while doing education, qualified as a teacher, and came back to Sabah, was doing some work in Simlaya for a year, and then I won the Chevening scholarship and did my master's degree in international law. And then further than that, went back to Sabah again. I was lecturing in Sabah for a while, and then in banking, and then again back in UK doing my further postgraduate studies in foreign direct investment. So at the moment, I'm actually in a very, very different industry, very much on fintech, financial technology, cryptos, and DeFi, they call it, decentralized finance, as a legal advisor, counsel for a multinational company, as a vice president and legal counsel. So very much so, this area of environmental law, climate change, it is not actually my main specialty, but bear with me. So Borneo Forum, let's take Borneo Forum. Borneo Forum, why did we set it up? Borneo Forum has been existing for a while before we went online when the pandemic hit. A few of us, 3 or 4 of us, decided to launch it 2019, and we are now on our 11th session in in November and December with the 12th one. So Borneo Forum Limited is a non-profit, and Borneo Organization Limited is a for-profit, but based on a social enterprise model. Both are community interest companies registered in the UK. Why the UK is simply because I'm based here, and we thought it's going to be a better entity to have it in the UK as well. The vision of the Borneo Forum is that, firstly, the conservation and protection of Borneo Island. That's very, very important. That's the very first vision. Secondly, to cultivate, nurture, and strengthen relationships, cooperation, and family spirits among the Borneo people, especially Sabah, Labuan, Sarawak, as well as Brunei, and the 5 regions in Kalimantan, Kaltara, Kaltim, Kalteng, Kalbar, and Kalsel, through entrepreneurship, business, cultural, and social activities. We are non-political. And then to develop Borneo sustainably, as envisaged in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, what's our mission? Our mission is to organize forums, conferences, exhibitions, and expos to build a network, particularly in Sabah and Labuan and in Sarawak and the whole Borneo, as well as with friends of Borneo all over the world, and to create opportunities for entrepreneurships and business for the people of Sabah, Labuan, Sarawak, and Borneo as a whole, and to protect, promote the rights of Borneo people, especially the indigenous people of Borneo, to train capable, clean, and trustworthy young leaders of Borneo who care for Borneo, and through training program and coaching, and to protect Borneo environment, its flora and fauna, and its biodiversity, and to find and generate funds and resources to facilitate sustainable development of Borneo. So that's how brief I'm going to talk about Borneo Forum, because I realize I've made a lot of slides on the legal aspects, the rule of law instead. So as I said, I'm not a specialist in environmental law. My interest in this area became heightened ever since Boyd and Simon joined Borneo Forum as project directors, and that's really heightened my interest. It's always been there, but I'm not really focused on it because of my interest in finance and financial technology. But I'm being guided by the work of a very, very prominent judge, Supreme Court judge in the UK, Lord Conworth, CVO, and by other experts. I like to quote, just to premise this presentation, a quote by none other former justice from Malaysia, His Royal Highness Sultan Azlan Shah, back in 1997. This kind of summarizes what it is all about. Legal principles and rules help convert our knowledge of what needs to be done into binding rules that govern human behavior. Law is the bridge. Law is the bridge between scientific knowledge and political action. This is a kind of a summary of what the role of law is all about. Now, I'd like to go back briefly the development of environmental law in the last 50 years. Yeah, the most groundbreaking development was in 1972, the Stockholm Declaration. This is hugely groundbreaking. The Declaration of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment in Stockholm in 1972 recognized the need to adopt measures of the protection of the environment. Okay, so this is it. This is the one that kicked it off. It first affirmed our shared responsibility to protect and improve the environment for present and future generation. And it sets out the basic principles as well, which became the foundation of modern environmental law. This is where it all started. So it's very important to know this, because what I'm trying to do here is to address the normative formation of international law. International law are developed or become formed by norms, by practices, by multilateral agreement, by declaration, slowly evolving into international law. An example of that is, for instance, slavery. The old days, no one even thinks slavery is illegal, but because of the action of few people campaigning and against it, eventually the whole world woke up and they said, this is bad. And then all the declaration against anti-slavery and then the legislations came about because of the work of these pioneers. And this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing about environment, similarly with the anti-slavery law and after many years of development. This is how it is coming about. So this declaration is so important, made an appeal to all countries in respect to respond to this. Government, all countries began incorporating environmental policies in the administrative legislative framework. Okay, because of the declaration, governments are following, and this is why declaration and summits and work of this nature is so important. And then, of course, 20 years later, we have the Rio Declaration. That is more precise form of principles. There's an early test on the interaction between science, law, and politics, and the global response to the threat of the ozone layer for CFC. Yeah, used widely in all refrigerations and a lot of machinery. So these are the first two development. Okay. And then two major conventions followed. 1985, the Vienna Convention on the Protection of Ozone Layer. And then in 1987, the Montreal Protocol on Ozone Depleting Substance, ODS. Okay. The significance of this further convention, they are then evolve a compliance procedure supervised by implementation committees. Okay. The approach was non-judicial and non-confrontational, but yet it established the protocols. Having said something about the conventions and efforts and declarations, we also have development from judicial intervention. Okay, the most significant case in America, this is important, the Massachusetts versus EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, 2007. This is a very significant case that, why do I mention this? Very much national cases, because we don't, other jurisdiction, especially the common law jurisdiction, refers to all these cases as a precedent, and they establish further customary law or practices, or even inspire other judges or decisions by other jurisdictions. So this is so significant, and it actually pushed President Obama a radical climate agenda on his presidency. It's crucial in the US-China joint announcement on climate change 2014. And this paved the road for the Paris Agreement, of course. In 2015, a very, very auspicious year in climate change law. There are two important judicial developments from very different legal angles. Okay, this is very exciting because one is a European case in The Hague called the Uganda case, very much using tort law, very, very innovative. And the other one is Pakistan, Lahore, the Lahari versus Federation of Pakistan case. We seem to think, why would a national case become so important nationally? Because these are really referred to. They are referred to by other courts, by other jurisdictions as a guide. So these two are very, very significant case law developing. I like to touch upon not only the legal aspect or the legal community, I would like to touch on the commercial, especially the financial sector as well. In 2015, the Bank of England Governor, Mark Carney, made this statement, okay, warning financial institutions of the risks and challenges of transition of carbon-free economy, okay? Okay, he said, we do not need an army of actuaries to tell us that a catastrophic impact of climate change will be felt beyond the traditional horizons of most actors, imposing a cost on future generation that the current generation has no direct incentive to fix. In other words, once climate change has become a defining issue of financial stability, it may already be too late. Why is this statement so important? It's important because they define the legal responsibilities for investment funds, corporate entities of all kinds, company directors, all the financial instruments now are being warned that the money that is spent or the funds that's accumulated, invested in certain area must then be conscious of the impact of those funds. It cannot be just spending those funds for deforestation, for instance. They must be accountable for their action, what those funds and capitals or hedge funds or venture capitals are going to be spent upon, and what's the impact of those funds, because those capital are such a powerful force in where the environment is going. Money speaks, money talks, and this is the significance of this statement. And this now it become repeated and referred to almost like a legal decision, funnily enough. And then, of course, we have the fantastic Paris Agreement in December 2015, already alluded to by Joe Boyd. We don't have to talk too much about this, but this is actually truly monumental achievement. It's huge. It's shocking almost. It was breathtaking in terms of the ambition and the scope of it and the speed of it's being done. Okay. Basically, the key obligation lie in the NDC, nationally determined contributions. That's very key to this whole agreement, which each party is legally required, to prepare, communicate, and maintain. The NDC is to be achieved through domestic mitigation measures, okay? Article 4.2 of the Paris Agreement, okay? So although the content of NDC is left to the individual states or country or nation, there's going to be a progressive improvement, but then that become very quite effective, okay? So the NDC is the key of this Paris Agreement. Now, I have a lot more to talk about on the other aspects of the declaration, but I'd like to move on quickly. Before that, of course, the 2017, we know President Trump became president, and that was a rude awakening, a setback for us. He didn't believe it, and of course, he spent his years as a president to undo all Obama's work, and he's been issuing executive orders to undo all the previous work by President Obama. And I'm glad that now that is no longer the case, and also the undoing the agreement, the leaving of an agreement actually cannot take it until last year November, so it didn't really happen. So it's a good thing. What happened next, without being too specific. Now, having covered about the international formation of legal norms, international law, declaration, there's also a huge, massive growth in climate litigation around the world. So private individuals, companies, or group taking action against authority or companies. This is the area I'd love to explore more, because I think it is the future, the force for people to take action against. It could be authorities, could be companies, private legal action. It's developing. The law behind it is really expounding. Now, for those of you who are researchers, a good source, actually, beautifully done, called A Handbook on Climate Litigation by Professor Carl and Weller of Heidelberg University. You can find that. That is a very useful resource, where they document and archive all the litigation cases. Very important, because somebody can just have that a local lawyer that do not have a lot of experience in the area and read that and become proficient about the whole body of law in climate litigation. I will come back to that later in terms of Sabah and Borneo. Okay, there's also the UNEP ASEAN Development Bank handbook called Comparative Climate Change Litigation Beyond the Usual Suspect, 2021, very new. Okay, this is also, it covers 30 different jurisdictions. Why am I excited about this? I'm excited about this because it is a very complex area of law, and to have a archive, a compendium, resources, a treasure trove of the legal action taken privately, it's a fantastic thing. You know, you lawyers, you can imagine if you walk into a law library and you have all the things in one book. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, just bringing it down quickly to Malaysia. We have already mentioned that Malaysia is very much subscribing to the Paris Agreement. In Malaysia alone, the primary legislation governing Malaysian environmental policy is the EQA 1974, Environmental Quality Act 1974. That is in need of revision and updating. It prevents pollution. And enforce action against those who cause harm to the environment. And then I'd like to touch a little bit on the Constitution of Malaysia. The Article 5 of the Federal Constitution says, no person shall be deprived of life or personal liberty save in accordance with the law. That looks a bit general. What's it got to do with the environment? Actually, this in 1996, this provision was interpreted by the Court of Appeal to include the right to live in a reasonably healthy and pollution-free environment. That is a significant. This is the Tan Teck Cheng versus Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Pendidikan 1996. So there you go. We have a basis for future private litigation based on the Constitution of Malaysia. I also read that the Bar Council of Malaysia has a special committee, the Bar Council Environment and Climate Change Committee. They are involved in formulating new Environmental Protection Act to replace the current EQA. They are also involved in the Wildlife Conservation Act 1910. It's about the smuggling and poaching of wildlife. And the Wildlife Conservation Act gave recognition to the current threats towards the Malaysian wildlife and introduced stricter penalties to lawbreakers. So this is quite useful, obviously. And then, having spoken about private action, it's a landmark judgment, very new, in January 2021, in the case of Taman Rimba Kiara. This is a landmark of very good news for the future, where the Court of Appeal, YB Datu Mary Lim, decided that the proposed development obtained by the developer, a joint venture, was null and void. So the whole development, the joint venture that was already agreed, was declared null and void and was stopped. And this is the kind of thing. This is the decision. The decision is a landmark, is a triumph for environmentalists, environmental cause, and the community. And no doubt, this case is going to be the basis of further private litigation going forward. In Malaysia, Borneo, as you know, pollutions, incidents, water pollution in 2020, Borneo, of course, faced with the problem of forest fire, burning, if not haze and smoke, deforestation in large scale, resulting in environmental change, massive floods. We face flooding in Sabah recently and everywhere. Yeah, plastic already. Simon covered that. Fish bombing. So the proper enforcement of environmental law is necessary to curb all these activities, because sometimes the damage is so severe, especially the fish bombing and all that, destroy all the coral reef. Is sometimes almost irreparable or takes a long time to repair. So it's so important, without even being obvious here, to preserve our green lungs for the future generation. And this whole Heart of Borneo project, it's very important. Okay, now as I mentioned, what is the challenge in Malaysia? Although there's a lot of advancement in the legal development internationally, and there's a lot of private litigation in Malaysia. In Malaysia, private litigation is still very minimal, still lacking, so to speak. Litigation is the nature of Malaysian society, not very litigious, unless it's about election and results. We do a lot of litigation on that side, and also we are conscious of, like, how to say, we don't do that. There's a cost, of course. It's a cost involved, but we are not very litigious. And the state of the judiciary, the limited access to justice, of course, the limited environmental awareness is another thing, and the limited recognition of environmental rights. All of these are the areas that we can do a lot to raise awareness, and this is one of the forum, together with our forum, to raise awareness about environmental rights. There's a need for greater enforcement powers to the relevant authorities and harsher punishment to the polluters, to the destroyers of the environment. Okay. The environmental issues become more and more complex now. You see the recent development, and the EQA should be improved now, revised and improved and amended. Okay, lawyers especially should take public interest in litigation and give free service, pro bono basis. More so for the matters affecting basic rights. Lawyers should step up and provide. Cost is a big thing, and for the lawyers to take upon cases without charging, that is a good thing. And I believe, and also the Bar Council believe, that there should be a need for a specialist court in Malaysia, also national and state level and regional level, to handle environmental cases, because it needs a very specialist knowledge. And I think that's a good way forward if we have a specialist court in Malaysia. Yes, that's about it. I think. I don't know how long I've spoken to. How long have I spoken to? For? Am I 10 minutes up? Okay, yeah, I speed it up. Now, just to conclude, there's an area of law called an area of study called green criminology, which is what I am researching now. Okay, it is a branch of criminology that involves the study of harms and crimes against the environment. including the study of environmental law and policy, the study of corporate crimes against the environment, and environmental justice from criminology perspective. Yeah, this is very, very, very important. Once this is established as a modules and a learning modules in law schools and business schools and in universities and colleges, it gives us the awareness of what we can do with the law. That's the role of law. The role of law is so important. It is the tool that makes the ordinary people have a tool to defend their belief and also to protect the environment. So thank you very much. I do have a lot more to go, but I better not deeper on the whole role of business, the carbon trade and all that. I think that's too much if I covered that for now. I think I'll conclude here. It's just a run too quickly on the international level. I still have not touched on the ASEAN level, the regional level. There is a report just published by ASEAN on the state of climate change report dated 31st of October this year. That's a significant document. I've not even touched on ASEAN, Southeast Asia. I've not even gone deeply into the state level law, various environmental law. Obviously, that would be great, but it's too much material there. And thank you very much. I hope that was helpful. A very, very brief introduction to the role of law at an international level, regional level, national level, and then the local level and the individual level. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you very much, Ken. If you can close your share, yeah, that's great. Just while I get myself slightly organized here. Okay. Thanks very much, Ken. Honestly, you've all given us a tremendous amount to think about. It's really great, really, really great. We're over our time, that's for sure. I think that, I mean, yeah, well, anyway, we just are. So I think we can take a few questions, but shall we aim for 10 o'clock as a finishing time? What do you think?
I'm good with that. I've got to rush to another Zoom call.
Let's do that.
You've all given us a tremendous amount to think about. It's really great, really, really great. We're over our time, that's for sure. I think that, I mean, yeah, well, anyway, we just are. So I think we can take a few questions, but shall we aim for 10 o'clock as a finishing time? What do you think?
I'm good with that. I've got to rush to another Zoom call.
Let's do that.
We're okay with that. I have a question here, Boyd, for you, which is, this person has said that according to you, Sabah and Borneo's current environmental issues stem from existing mindsets in managing the environment and natural resources and need innovation and renewed thinking to address environmental challenges. But then the person goes on to ask about the Nature Conservation Agreement, NCA, signed by the Sabah government, as explained by Dr. Jeffrey Kittingen. Do you see that this is an innovative new way to address our environmental and climate change concerns? Try to really give a brief answer so we can cover a few more questions.
Okay, because the first part is okay. Second part sounds a bit odd, if you like. It doesn't seem to connect in some way. Anyway, in terms of the NCA, I don't know much detail on that. I know there's a lot of things flying around, but from the point of view of climate and dealing with addressing carbon matters, or in terms of reducing your carbon, you being the country, it's a good idea, i.e. this kind of carbon credit systems, it's not new. It's already been done through development mechanisms and other things. It's not new. However, the way to do it would be ensuring that it is done in a proper, above board, if you like, very transparent process, and you need good policies to go with that. That's why I was looking at the point of view of having a really robust SABA CCAP in this case. You have that, and that will be your guide into how you deal with carbon emissions, for example. Now that's the crunch of it. So I see it is a good idea. However, there's a big caveat there to ensure that it's done properly.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to chop sort of off there, but Ken, just from the legal point of view, would you say that the NCA, in your opinion, as a legal expert, that it's right or fair for Sabah to commit to such a contract for 100 or more years?
As Boyd said, simply without going deeper into the agreement itself, because we do not really know the detail of exactly the exact agreement and the legal obligation arising from this agreement. We are all in support of that. This is an instrument created by the market, and it has proven to be effective in many cases, especially in the US. Now, this argument about does carbon credit contract actually promote pollution by these companies that buys this credit? Yes and no, but from my experience in the USA cases, a lot of these companies end up really changing the practices and ensuring that they do not produce more of the carbon. Now, is this fair for Sabah? Is it a good thing? Yes, it is one of the instruments that allow us to conserve our forests. And the issue only then is the details, the transparency. We're not saying anything about the parties. There's issue of it being a bit rushed. Yeah. And in a sense, I know it's been going for a long time, but people are just concerned. I don't think people are against it. People just want to know more about it. That's and right. The latest seems to be that this addendum that's not been included, so there's still a opportunity to stop it apparently or delay.
And as we all know, the devil's in the detail. So correct. Hey, we need to get down there. Okay, then let's move on to Simon. Simon, here's a question about blue carbon in relation to Sabah. Blue carbon is the term for carbon captured by the world's ocean and coastal ecosystems. Blue carbon ecosystems not only prevent climate change, they also protect coastal communities from its harmful impacts, such as rising seas and flooding, and they provide important habitats for marine life. So the question is, what can be done substantively to enhance Sabah's blue carbon assets to mitigate climate change?
I mean, the reality, can you hear me? Yes, yeah. Zone, which can sequester carbon, whether it be mangroves, seagrasses, salt marshes, we don't have them here, but other parts of the world, is incredibly important, incredibly valuable. And people generally, I think Sabahans and most people who don't realize the value, just see them kind of smelly swamps. But in fact, they provide an incredible ecosystem service in terms of coastal protection, stopping coastal erosion. And in fact, they're actually a lot more efficient. I mean, the total value in terms of carbon sequestration from mangroves is about 3% of the whole of the tropical rainforest, and they actually they absorb carbon about 10 times more effectively than tropical rainforest. Equally, seagrass beds store 5 times more carbon than tropical forests. So what I'm saying is they are incredibly valuable, and people don't value them. We have to stop converting them into. We have to protect our mangroves. Bottom line, we've got to protect them. We've got to stop converting them into fish farms or into roads. We actually have to provide see them as incredibly important habitats that we need to protect. They're actually extremely important. By wiping them out, we're actually creating huge amounts of greenhouse gases. So we have to protect them. Bottom line, we have to protect them. And every single mangrove swamp that's cleared, it is a bite out of Sabah's future in reality.
Great, thank you very much, Simon. Chloe, I hope you don't mind, I'm just sort of tramping on here. Okay. We have what's almost a trick question for Boyd. Well, in the sense, well, it's not a trick question really, but it's like, can you, I quite like it really, but can you summarize the Borneo Declaration in one simple sentence? You can use 500 words if you like, for the young generation. The idea is, how do we convey the message of the Borneo Declaration to the younger generation?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did reply to David on that on the chat, but to make it a one-liner is not that easy. But I have to say it's the crunch of the declaration are really the young people, because they are the ones that are going to be around for the next 50, 100 years even, while all of us here probably won't be around. So it's very important to bear in mind for them that this is for their future, if you like. So if we do it right here in helping each other, then you will get somewhere. So I would say the declaration is about getting involved in addressing climate change for your own country or for your own state, so that you come to a point where you champion the things to be done, and then all the oldies like us can help them along the way. So that's it.
Great.
Okay.
Yep. So, hey, I admire you. Congratulations. Well done. Yeah. Okay, Chloe, can you lead us into the to finishing up the evening? Thanks.
All right. No more questions, Jude?
No, we're
sure. So before I go to the final words from all of our speakers tonight, I have to do some announcement. Sabah Society is a community society, and we need donation. We need you to support us so that we can invite all of these amazing, wonderful speakers like tonight. You can see beside of me and Jude's background, there's a code, QR code here, so that you can just scan it, use your Maybank QR code or the Boost. These two can be used. And if you still can't donate to us, right, you can always ask Monica or just text us on the hotline or just email us. And yes, final words from the speakers. We can go from Boyd first, then Simon and Ken.
Okay, thank you, Sabah Society, Chloe, Jude, and Rachel, and others for inviting us to this forum, and especially to my friend David. It's been an honor to be involved. The last time I was part of this talk was way back when I was doing the Sabah Shoreline Management Plan. So that's how old I am now compared to that time. Having said that, it's an important topic that we're discussing tonight, and I think it's very, very critical that we do something about it. So if Sabah Society can be the champion on our behalf to say something when it comes to the Sabah Climate Conference on the 14th and 15th, please do. I think there's a lot of learned people in this forum and in this event tonight that can bring the message to them. So please do. Thank you for inviting us again.
You can pass your message to the president. Now let's go to Simon.
Thanks, Chloe. Yeah, thanks again to Sabah Society for hosting us and giving us this platform. Much appreciated. My simple points are really, Sabah has more value than most other locations in Southeast Asia and certainly Malaysia. And what we need to do is we need to protect it vehemently and vigilantly more than ever before. As I said, every single mangrove, every single fish bomb, every single elephant, every single pangolin that is poached is a small bite out of Sabah's future. And youth is mission critical, which is why we're starting with our program at schools. We need to start recycling. We need to start using reusable bottles, stop throwing away plastics, no more plastic straws, and saying no to single-use plastics. The bottom line is that, a technology, we bring in a technology, we throw money at Sabah, that's not going to do it. We have to go through a spiritual and a cultural transformation. Globally, every single person has to change, and we have to live more sustainably. We can do it together, but we need to all work together. We need to spread this message, because it really is a incredibly important time. And Sabah has got so much to protect, and that value, if we can keep it, will actually stand us all in good stead in the longer term. But it's very hard as you come out of COVID. But we really need to look at quality rather than quantity, and each of us try and start living more sustainably. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. And now let's go to Ken.
Mute, Ken.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much again. I make it brief, focusing on the collaboration we make, because the Sabah Society is very much a Sabah organization. We are here, Pan Borneo. We look to work with probably there's a Sarawak organization or Sarawak Society maybe, and then of course there are 5 regions in Kalimantan, Brunei, and Labuan. Why so ambitious? Because as I say to you, we are well known as. If you ask somebody, when I first arrived in the UK, said, I'm from Malaysia, said, where is Malaysia? But I said, I'm from Borneo. Said, oh, well, yes, I know Borneo. Borneo is such a powerful brand, like Amazon, only second to Amazon, if not equal. And there are many friends of Borneo around the world. In London, there are so many orangutans organization sending money to organization. We have friends all over the world for Borneo, and we are here, Sabah Society, Borneo Organization, Borneo Forum, hopefully to work with you closely in the future too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. And yes, well, Boyd, Simon, and Ken, please send us your organization's social media, and we can help to share all of your amazing and exciting works. Yep. So, Jude, anything you want to say before I close the session?
Yeah, Sabah boleh.
Sabah boleh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Borneo boleh.
Borneo boleh. Yes, North Borneo pun boleh. So,
Borneo boleh.
for me, I just have to say that we are in the fight of our life as we are living in the environment as well, right? And this fight must be won. Never give up, never retreat, and just keep pushing forward. And I believe we can improve the environment, like with all of your works here, Boyd, Ken, and Simon. And to be sure, commitments can only take us so far, but the impact is the only possible if each initiative is actioned, like funding is enough, like if the funding commitment is invested, the purchasing commitments translate into, contracts, and many things that it's possible. And well, I think that's the end of the session. And before we really end this live on Facebook, Borneo Eco Film Festival will do a screening on a Suara film by the Suara community filmmaking community from all over Borneo. Now, this last film, previously we did screen one, is Pantai Kita, talking about Tanjung Aru. And now this is Hiroshi Karang. And please enjoy the film. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jude, for being my co-moderator.
Oh, thanks, Chloe. It was fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ken. Naya. Thank you, Kak Simon, Christopher. Thank you, Boyd, Joman.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you all.
It's
Take
been
care.
really an
Thank you.
interesting.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sabah Society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
everyone to
Good night.
stay.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.